Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Doing a special start sit stream here for those who want to hop in. I posted on Twitter a couple minutes ago. I posted the wrong link. I had to delete it and put the right one down. But hopefully everybody is going to start piling in here. And again, with 4 games, you got 3 Thanksgiving games. You got a Black Friday game. That's 8 teams. A quarter of the league is playing. And you may be weighing out players who are playing on Thursday, Friday versus Sunday. So I want to make sure you get those questions answered for you. As usual on Sunday, we definitely will come back with our normal start sit stream, but I want to make sure I got everybody covered. Charlene, good to see you in the house. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you're going to have a wonderful holiday. Sauger, always appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving as well. Hopefully been getting you some winners on those night primetime games we're always putting on Twitter, so that's good there. I see Max is in the house. Max, always appreciate the great support from you, all 3 of you in the house here. And again, happy Thanksgiving. You enjoy the time with your family and loved ones. I'm going to quickly put the schedule on my screen here just because of times of games and things like it with pivots. All right. So yeah, Josh Downs out. I'm not so happy about that. You need 3 of the following 4: CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Brian Thomas Jr. So CeeDee Lamb, we've seen him get pounded with targets, and the floor has been wonderful. It's possible he gets ceiling here. If he gets going after the catch, and the Giants bring a heck of a pass rush. So it's going to be one of those chicken and egg things, right? Because of the pass rush gets home very, very quickly. And Dallas was down. Tyler Smith and Zach Martin last week. So it's tough. But again, they're scheming up Lamb quick. And the secondary in New York is not good. So I do think CeeDee Lamb, you got to play him. If he's getting double-digit targets, and if he breaks one, that floor becomes a ceiling game. I don't think he can set him. DJ Moore, again, 2 weeks in a row since Thomas Moore took over to play calling, 7 targets in each game. I think he had 62 in the first one, and that was a tough matchup. And then this past week goes over 100 yards. They're scheming up a lot of quick passes to them, but the offensive line, they're pulling guards out, they're moving tackles, they're getting them set up with great blocking. Here's the thing: Lions play a ton of man coverage and they like to blitz. Well, that means there's a great chance for more yardage after the catch. And DJ Moore is significantly better than the corners in Detroit. So I think you're playing both of them. For your last one, look, right now, Marvin Harrison, it's tough. It's tough. We've been making excuses. We've had some reasons, and they've all made sense. In theory, against Minnesota, he could be okay. Brian Thomas Jr., though, we don't know who the quarterback is. That's not going to. Houston's not the best matchup. But Thomas has been getting it done. He gets it done almost every week. And I just think that if you're made down to this decision, you got a guy who's getting it done versus a guy who's not getting it done. And it really becomes not a technical question. It becomes, you got to go with the guy that's playing well, playing like a star. And maybe Lawrence plays. We don't know right now. But the good news is, Max, since you know you're playing the 2 Thanksgiving guys, you can come back with me on Sunday on the show. I might have more information about injuries and things like that for the last 2, and we could do that question then. And then, Max, you got another one. At quarterback, you got Geno, Carr, Levis, or Bryce Young. And then, all right, so Will Levis, I don't like Will Levis this week. Will Levis is going to see Dan Quinn's coaching against him. And Dan Quinn should have a game plan that adds some level of stress to Will Levis, and that's going to be a problem. Bryce Young was great last week. Understand, the Chiefs, since they lost, I think it was Jalen Watson. I keep forgetting the name of the corner, but he's been on IR for a while. They got one corner right, McDuffie. The pass rush hasn't been getting there. And so basically, the Chiefs are not, like, the last few weeks, they're not good on defense. You could throw on them to the perimeter, which Bryce Young did. There wasn't that much pass rush, so he was fine. They're playing Tampa. Tampa may not have a good secondary. They're going to blitz the tar out of him. And I don't trust them. Derek Carr. We're going to be getting the Geno real quick. Derek Carr, they roll him out. They use play action, and it often works. Here's the problem with the Rams. The Rams don't have like one pass rusher. The Rams got like a good set of pass rushers across the board. So what happens is, if they roll out Carr, they're going to roll him into a good pass rusher one way or the other. And it's problematic because Carr needs to be kept clean. So there's that. So look, Geno's the default one here. Geno, so let me just double check his matchup here. They're playing the Jets. The Jets have the names on defense. They've been playing poorly. And there's no other way to say it. I think they lost their heart when Salah got fired. And Gino often needs garbage time. There won't be garbage time here. But I think Gino has the best floor of this group. If you got to go boom, bust, swing for defense, you could take a look at Derek Carr. The possibility exists. But I think Gino has the best floor of this group. And then you got one more. And I got a few more things here. I guess since we don't have a ton of questions dropping in. Jamie says, happy holiday to you. Appreciate you, Jamie. Charlene, we'll talk about your kicker in a minute. Let's see. All right, let me see. And then we'll get back out. All right, let's get back to the questions. But it's so nice to see everybody here. All right, let's see. So we're back to Max's question. So you have a second one here, Max. Oh, I think you had. Yeah, there we go. All right. So you got ETN, Jalen Warren, or Gus Edwards. I'm going to go with Jalen Warren here. Jalen Warren has been getting a little more work, and I'll actually tell you, I would cite my my doc here where I kind of go over player trends. Warren has been getting, I believe, around 10 touches a game. Yeah, 14 last week, 13 the week before, 16 the week before. His volume's back up. The injuries are gone, and the yardage has been good. And his targets, 5 and 4 in the last 2 games. And I think against the Bengals been a good run defense, but they're kind of prone to the change of pace back. And that's the beauty for Warren. You know, Harris sets the tone, the defense plays at that speed, and Warren takes advantage. But Warren should be involved as a receiver. And I think that's kind of where he gets him. So I do like him here. ETN's been terrible. I don't know how else to say it. He's been terrible. He's not getting it done as a receiver. As a runner, gets his 10, 11 carries. And I just don't see any world where ETN gets going. And Houston's been great against the run. So in good conscience, I can't play him. And then Gus Edwards. Somebody had a Vidal question. I'll answer it. Look, here's what's probably going to happen. First of all, Dobbins was good because the tackles were good run blockers. The interior is not good. Running up the middle is not the strength of this run blocking line. Gus Edwards is an interior runner. Kimani Vidal, more of an interior runner. So I think it's going to be a little problematic. Now, I think it's split. I think Edwards and Vidal are going to split the work. Vidal, the reason he was inactive, Haskins plays special teams. So when Dobbins went out, Haskins stepped into a 45% snap share, but he was the only other running back on the roster. What will happen now with Dobbins out, Vidal gets elevated. Haskins retains the role he had as the number 3, which is special teams and a couple snaps. So, with that said, Jalen Warren's your guy here. All right, let's see what we got here. You know, we already got Charlene, and happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Charlene. Thank you. And Evan, you want Jordan Love or Matthew Stafford? So I like Love as a floor play. I do think he has a very strong floor in this game. Miami is a very good run defense. They have the versatility in their weapons to be able to move through. I think Tucker Kraft does decently here. That's a Romeo Dobbs. He's not going to play. He's got the concussion. He hasn't practiced. 4 days, but after the concussion, I can't see that happening. But Dontavian Wicks has been dropping the ball in concentration levels. He'll move into a full-time role, but he could get going here. But I think overall, I think the totality of the passing attack, I think that Love is a good floor. But I don't think he has a big ceiling here. I don't think it's a big game. I think you get 1 or 2 touchdowns. You probably get about 220 yards, and I think that they're calling it a day. If you need upside, here's why I like Stafford. So when Stafford gets pressured, especially up the middle, he's been a real problematic quarterback. You can tell he wants to get the ball out. And in this particular matchup that he has against New Orleans doesn't really get a consistent pass rush. So he will be very protected. And that means the whole offense works. And the secondary to Saints, not a problem for these receivers. They don't stylistically match up a couple of Nakua. So your upside play is Stafford. The reason he's not the floor play too is Kyron Williams could get going here. It could be a big run game, but I think Stafford has real upside. He has 3 or 4 touchdowns upside here in this game. So, but again, a little riskier. Loves your floor play. My lineup, I probably would go with Stafford in this matchup. All right, Sauger, what do you got here? Can you trust the Cowboys to get it done at home? The defense is different with Micah Parsons. I also think the Commanders, look, I know they scored late, and I know they had the fluke touchdown, 86 yards to McLaurin. I really think Cliff Kingsbury's cycle is run. Everybody saw the film on them. They know what they want to do. You take away those 2 or 3 things, and there's not much left. So the Cowboys beat a team that was already going to be in decline, but Parsons really added a level to them. And that was a divisional matchup. I talk about it all the time. These divisional matchups, you can't put the proper stock in them because these teams hate each other and they know each other. And so there's a lot of factors. And I don't always like betting divisional games. You know that. I try to shy away from that a bit. But I wouldn't use the word trust with the Cowboys. We got another divisional game with the Giants. Now, here's the thing. I may have said this earlier in the show, so I think I did, but I'll repeat it. Tyler Smith, the left guard, was out last week, and Zach Martin, the right guard, was out. That's a problem. Dexter Lawrence, man, that's where he roams. And then they got Kayvon Thibodeau came back last week, and then they got Brian Burns. I think the pass rush is going to be a problem for Dallas. But I think Rico Dowdle gets a little bit down the ground because the run defense hasn't been good. In terms of the Giants, yeah, it's going to be a problem for the Giants. The Giants are going to struggle to move the ball, I think, because Micah Parsons is really going to make it a problematic game for Tommy DeVito. So I do think the Cowboys win, but I think the Cowboys don't score a whole lot of points. I think the Cowboys are happy to keep it a little bit in the mud. But I do think they get it done. I would be more inclined to, because I think Micah Parsons makes the difference. And with Tyrone Tracy having fumbled in the last 2 games, his snaps at the 41% last week. They may have to shut him down to like that halftime role again. And that's a bit of a problem. Evan, Chiefs D against the Raiders, Bills D right now, I would say the Bills, because I would wait till Sunday to make sure the weather report is true. It's supposed my friend Dennis Michelson, who's been a meteorologist for over 3 decades, he's a great fantasy mind as well. You find him at DMic Media, DMIC Media on the X. And Dennis sends me these detailed weather reports of what he sees. And he said that the game we saw in the second half of Cleveland-Pittsburgh is what we should expect to see in Buffalo the entire game. Now you got a 49ers team with a bunch of injuries. Brock Purdy apparently can barely throw the ball 5 yards. So does he play? Probably not. It's a West Coast team traveling into this mess. Bills are a well-coached defense. It could be turnovers. It could be sloppy. I'd go with the Bills. And if the weather report clears up, then you just pivot back to the Seahawks. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers typically takes care of the ball. Typically, you're not going to have a 3-pick game. You can sack him, but he'll try to get it out. So I would say if the weather stays nasty in Buffalo, wait till Sunday. But the Chiefs, I wouldn't go with them. They're not making plays like you said. All right, let's see what else we got here. Cap for life. Hold on a second. Excuse me. All right, you need Cowboys, Packers, or Rams defense. I would be inclined to go with the Cowboys here. I mentioned earlier that Micah Parsons makes all the difference. And Dallas, the run defense has actually been better with him. They moved him interior on some snaps. And I thought that was interesting. So when they did that, I mean, they're not an elite run defense, but I think the Giants are going to be in some obvious passing situations. I think there's sacks. I think there's potential for turnovers. There's a Deron Bland. Could we get another pick 6? I would go that route. The Rams are a close second, though, because if Derek Carr has the implosion game, it could be Pinball City. But I would probably be inclined to go with the Cowboys at home. The cap for life, I did mention earlier that, and I'm sure you heard me say this with the Kamani Vidal. So like I said, I won't repeat a whole lot of it, but yes, he will jump Hassan Haskins. Haskins is a special teamer who moved into a role because there was no third running back. He was a third running back. Vidal will be in the timeshare with Gus Edwards. The interior run blocking is very poor for the Chargers, and they are playing the Atlanta Falcons, who are a decent run defense. So you look, Vidal, 25 to 40 yards, 30% chance, 20% chance to score because Gus Edwards is more likely to see the goal line touch. Vidal could get 2 to 3 catches. That's in the range of outcomes, so that might help as well. Charlene, you need to pick up a kicker. Seibert is on the I know. Here's my thing with kickers, Charlene. I tell people this all the time. Kickers are usually luck, and I'm the unluckiest person on the planet. A skill-based question I'm great with. Luck-based, I don't want to do that to you. What I would say is this. If you're doing it for 1 week or two, well, it's an IR thing. I would pick a team that's not a cold weather team. I would rule that out. I'd try to pick a team in a warm climate or a dome team. And, you may have to stream. And I would probably stream week to week. I probably would just stream. Like this week, you'd look at a team playing indoors. Arizona's at Minnesota. If the Arizona's kicker, that game could have decent scoring. That could be a way to go. New Orleans and the Rams, if Cardi is available, it might be a game where Cardi gets some points. Those might be the ways I look. Those might be a couple ways to look. But kickers, yeah, I'm not so good with those. Those are all luck based. Shades, Tua or Purdy. You heard me talk a minute ago. If the weather, look, you're gonna make this decision on Thanksgiving because that's when Tua plays. So based on what you know, you got to go Tua. And it's not good for Tua. It's not good at all. But Purdy might not play. It's a legitimate injury, I guess, and he didn't play a game. They sent him one game, and they had to win, and they didn't. So once you sit a player once, it's easier to sit him twice. So knowing what we know now, you got to play Tua. If you could stream, see who's out there, I would probably Caleb Williams over him, quite honestly, if he's available. But look what's on your waiver wire because I think Tua's playing in, it'll be like, what, 15, 20 degrees, wind chill probably about 12, 10 degrees. He's 0-7 in cold weather games. I know Jair Alexander's not playing, but I don't trust Tua in the cold. I don't trust him in the cold. Could he get it done? Yeah. But his history says no. And he got a pop gun for an arm, and that's not going to help in cold weather. So, and then you got Devontae Smith, Waddle, or Dowdle. Devontae Smith missed last week, so kind of the same deal. We really don't know. It's early, the injury thing, and that's a problem. They have, you got two guys going on Thursday, so you need a receiver and a flex. So look, I at this point, not knowing Devontae Smith's status, unless we get a clear indication he's a full practice participant before Waddle's game's a night game, and Dowdle's a 4:30 Eastern game. So there could be a practice report on Devontae Smith. If he puts in a full practice, I would go Dowdle and Smith. If Devontae Smith does not put in a full practice, I think you have to go Waddle and Dowdle because you can't take that chance. Jamie, Terry McLaurin, or Brian Thomas. Yeah, it's a tough one because Terry McLaurin, look, he had 3 weeks ago, he had 2 catches, but he was 19 yards, but he scored on both of them. So there was that. And then last week, he would have been his 3rd game in 4 with 30 or less yards, or less than 30 yards. But then that crazy, and it wasn't a Hail Mary. It was like what the hell that play was. But yeah, the short catch, and then he runs 86 yards, and Dallas didn't tackle him. That's not countable. That's not bankable. Terry McLaurin, the offense has become so predictable, but yet for fantasy, he's figured out a way to get it done. But it's very fluky the way he's gotten it done. Tennessee is a good enough defense. And Brian Thomas, it's just like, no matter who the quarterback is, he mostly gets it done. That is, the quarterback situation makes this tough. Brian Thomas, 5 for 82 in the last game. Well, he did have a couple of bad games. He had a 2 for 12 against Minnesota, and this with Mac Jones, and a 2 for 22 against Philadelphia. Those were, Philadelphia's a brutal matchup. 3 for 60 and a touchdown against Green Bay. 5 for 89. The fact Brian Thomas had those 2 bad games, Houston is not the worst matchup. You know what? What I'll say is those players both play on Sunday. I would say this. If Trevor Lawrence plays, I'd give Thomas the edge. But I think that Houston pass rush is no joke. And I think if Mac Jones has to throw, they got 8. Houston got 8 sacks last week. And man, they got Will Anderson back. It's crazy. Good for him. So I think if Trevor Lawrence plays, I'd go Brian Thomas. If Trevor Lawrence doesn't play, I'd go Terry McLaurin. That's the way I would call that one. Charlene, do I trust Pacheco this week? It's tough. We know they're not putting him in a full-time role. We know that. They're not putting him in a full-time role right away. My guess is at best it's 50-50. He hasn't played, in 2-3 months? 2 months, 2.5 months. The Raiders have surprisingly been phenomenal against the run. Excellent run defense. And the Chiefs, teams are kind of sitting on it. Pacheco's very explosive, but will he be in his first game back? And he's probably capped out at 10 carries. Probably capped out there. So it depends what your other lineup options are. What I'm going to say for Pacheco is I'm going to pencil him in for 8 to 10 PPR points and give him a 40% chance to score a touchdown. If he scores the touchdown, he gets you close to 15. Hard to predict those. But I still think that firmly puts him in, that top 30-ish the first week back. I think every week he gets more work. But I think this first week, I think it has to be a 50-50. I just don't see them, they got the 1 seed by a game. But I think they don't want to compromise him. My guess. Murray, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex, half PPR. Murray, type in now which Williams we're talking about, and then I'll answer your question. All right. Just type in which Williams at the bottom, and I'll answer your question. I just need the first name of Williams. Are there any other names in there? The rest I all know. Okay. Manning, should you start DJ Moore or Darnell Mooney? You know what? I'm going to go with DJ Moore. Like I said, they're blocking very well on these design screens to Moore. It's been a thing of beauty. The Lions blitz a lot. The Lions play a lot of man. And DJ Moore, all he has to do is get past a defender who he's better than, and we can see a big player too. Darnell Mooney, this is not the week I like Mooney. I've loved Mooney all season. Mooney is in a situation in this game where he's playing the Chargers. The Chargers have been very good against outside receivers. They're even when they've had people hurt all year, they have just their zone has handled it. I think Moore has a better floor than Mooney, and I think this week his ceiling is significantly better. All right, let's go back to Murray's question. Murray, so Kyron Williams, Breece Hall, Bucky Irving, and you need 2 running backs. So let's just say out of this group. So, man, hard to trust Breece Hall right now. Bucky, that's a great question. I do trust Kyron Williams this week. New Orleans is a bad run defense, and Williams continues to get volume. So he has to go in there. Your question between Hall and Bucky Irving, Hall had the great game last time before the bye, but it's been a rough go where Bucky Irving is on fire. And Bucky Irving has a phenomenal matchup. Bucky Irving, for the first time last week, had more snaps than Rachaad White because it was normally about 60-40. The touches were even, but it was definitely skewed to White. Well, I think they've come around and Bucky Irving's the better back. So honestly, I'll tell you this. Hall has a higher floor than, Bucky Irving has a higher floor than Breece Hall. Breece Hall's a boom bust. So if you got to swing for defense, we saw last game, 2 touchdowns. He's Breece Hall. He still is Breece Hall, but he isn't playing well. So it's Williams and Bucky for floor, but if you got to go boom bust, it's Hall. Now you need 2 receivers. Evans, McLaurin, DJ Moore, Jennings, and Jamison. Jennings is probably in a snowstorm, so I'm probably not liking that. DJ Moore, I'm definitely in on. Like I said, since the coordinator change, he's been fantastic. Evans is definitely in. He played limited snaps last week. That's going to go up each week. This is a Carolina team. I remember last year, maybe it was last year, that he had a big drop for a potential touchdown. He would have had a massive game. But, Carolina is really no competition for him. So those are my 2. And then you need a flex out of the rest. So I would be inclined to start the other running back. Jamison Williams, the Bears are a very good pass defense. He's going to need that break 80-yard play to make his day, and I can't count on that. And McLaurin, like I said, Tennessee's a decent defense, and McLaurin had the lucky play last week, and other than that, it's been 3 games out of 4 with less than 30 yards. So I'm going to go with Breece Hall for volume there. All right. Manning, I think I answered you there. Sauger, what I trust about Caleb Williams is honestly the rushing number. I don't remember what it is, but I bet the over on it. And the reason being is Detroit, like I said, they play a lot of man. What that means is the second highest rate of man in the league. What that means is when they're playing zone, they face the quarterback. So when they see the quarterback take off, they can get after him. When you're playing man, your back is to the quarterback. And this Thomas Moore, the offensive coordinator, what he has done is he's got Williams acting fast. He either gets the ball out quickly or he takes off and runs quickly. And we know the Lions like to bring a blitz. Well, when they do that, if Caleb steps into the gap and the corners' backs are turned, these are chunks of yardage we're looking at here. So I love Caleb Williams rushing over. I think that's fantastic for him. Jamie, oh, man. You know, it's funny. If I could find a way to take a half a piece of each, that'd be the way to go there. But I've been a pecan pie guy myself. That's like if you put pumpkin up against almost anything else on the holiday, I would almost say pumpkin. But I got to make the pecan pie. I can't buy it from somewhere because pecans are expensive, and they places like they shortcut the pecans, and so they just it's mostly the goo in there. If I make it, I'm putting plenty of pecans in there. I overload it. That's the one. Love it. Sauger, you mentioned Caleb Williams have a big day on the ground. He'll have a big day on the ground. I would go over 40. I would go over 40 yards in this game. It's just styles make fights thing, right? And you're going to bring the blitz. You're going to play man. You got to run. And I think that Caleb Williams has shown. And Caleb Williams, probably tell you right now what his rushing numbers here. I got my spreadsheet here. Caleb Williams, last week he ran for 33 yards on 6 carries against Minnesota, and they play heavy zone, which is tougher. And then against Green Bay, he ran for 70 yards, and they play heavy zone. So against 2 zone-based teams, he ran for 33 and 70. That's over the 31 here. This situation is way more favorable than either of the other 2 games since Thomas More took over. All right, what we got next? All right, what we got next? We've got Poke Squid. You got Puka, Jamar, Amon-Ra, Kyron, Aaron Jones, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown. Which 4 do you start? I sound like you got a great team here. Can't sit Jamar. Honestly, can't really sit Puka either. And this matchup there's nothing problematic about this matchup. After that, I'd say Aaron Jones is in. Aaron Jones looked back last week. So I definitely want to go with Aaron Jones and Minnesota. They're playing Arizona. Arizona's been good, but I think that there's too much to worry about with the Vikings offense. So I think that Aaron Jones gets involved as a runner, receiver. And Aaron Jones was upset with himself after the fumble last week. So he definitely is that guy. He's a very, very mindful player. I really think he felt he let the team down. So I think he's going to continue to clean that up and be fine. So I'm going to go with him. For the 4th one, he doesn't always get enough targets, but Amon-Ra, it's got to be Amon-Ra, right? The Bears corners are great, but Amon-Ra's going to get his catches. And look, there's games where he gets 3 targets. It happens, but you kick yourself if Amon-Ra caught 8 for 95 and a touchdown. So I think as great as Bucky Irving and Chase Brown are, I think that you just got to go with the 4 studs and roll that way. Charlene, you got Kyler or Jaden Daniels? Yeah, I honestly like Kyler's matchup. Look, last week I get it. And honestly, full disclosure, I played Justin Herbert over Kyler Murray, and that won me by King's Classic game. Because I won by like 5 points, and I think they were like 7 points difference. But Minnesota is a good matchup for Murray. Minnesota blitzes a lot, but they don't get pressure. But that means Murray's going to see the blitz, and Murray's going to be able to shred it on the ground. But when he rolls out, the cornerbacks are not good for Minnesota, and Murray's very good at throwing on the run. Whereas Jaden Daniels, like I said, I mean, last week he got it done, but he didn't play well. It took garbage time. It took garbage time for this game. There's no garbage time against Tennessee. Tennessee's not going to blow anybody out. Tennessee's like a sneaky good defense. I'm going with Kyler here. I'm going with Kyler. I love Kyler's matchup. And before last week, he had that bad game against the Bears, but they blew him out and he didn't have to throw. But his last 4 other games were really good. But last week, Seattle, that was tough for Murray. Seattle's defense, they're cooking. They were cooking. And it wasn't Murray's fault. All right, Tyler. Oh, kickers. Can't do kickers, Tyler. It's all luck, man. But I'll tell you who not to play. Tyler Bass if it's a snowstorm. That one I can tell you. But yeah, kickers are all luck. I can answer skill-based questions, but you're luckier than I am because I'm the unluckiest person on the planet. But maybe the chat will give you an answer on those kickers. Myers Dell. I see he said Myers, Dell, or Coleman. So Jacoby Myers, it was a lot of who cares. It was garbage time, but man, it was brilliant last week. The Chiefs, we saw with the Panthers last week. They're down an outside corner, has been on the IR for a few weeks. You can throw on the outside against them right now. And the Raiders are going to have to score some points. So I think it's Myers. I think Myers has a great floor. He has a potential ceiling. It's a 2-man game in the passing game between he and Brock Bowers. And Aiden O'Connell, I think, is good enough to get the ball to him. Dell's boom bust. And it hasn't been a high floor. He doesn't have Myers' floor, right? But if you got to, and I think Myers is a reason. I think just playing Myers is a reasonable enough ceiling. I think in that Jacksonville-Houston game, I think that Joe Mixon gets going on the ground. Nico gets his. They might not need Dell a lot. Coleman's tough. It's going to be a snowstorm game most likely. So what we know now. And, and where he's at in terms of his injury, we're not quite sure. So, yeah, maybe not. All right. Charlene voting eggnog and brandy. I assume that's mixed together, or is that separate? You got to tell me that. Jamie. Jonnu Smith or Judy revenge game. You know what? It's very hard to fade Jonnu Smith right now. Defenses, they got to respect the speed of Tyreek and Waddle, so they put the shell back. And then obviously, at what's left underneath, you got Chan and you got Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith's been bankable. Judy, look, Denver's pass rush is insane. I'm worried about Jameis Winston in this game because Jameis Winston's going to be under a boatload of pressure. Love Judy, got him on most of my teams, but I got to go Jonnu Smith here. Tyler, probably not. The Raiders have been a great run defense. Underrated. Nobody talks about them because they're the Raiders. Nobody watches their games. They've been a great run defense. I don't think they get much going here. Pacheco obviously can get a break, break one, and that can make his day. Hunt has not been, look, every passing week, Hunt just has been counting on volume, and now that volume is slashed in half. Now we're looking 7 carries instead of 14, 16. Now I'm kind of out because you could get a 7 for 18 out of him. That is squarely in play. So no, I don't think I would. Sager, am I surprised the Packers are not more favored? I think Vegas doesn't trust the Packers. I think Vegas doesn't see the Packers as anything substantial. Like they're not a great team. Sometimes they're a good team. Sometimes they're a team that doesn't show up. I think it's a nervous line. I think it's a nervous line. And I don't think they're going to factor weathering because if it's not like, they're not calling for a blizzard, it's going to be cold. And I don't think Vegas does much to factor that in. So Miami's playing well. I warm weather teams coming into that climate, that doesn't excite me. Miami's been playing great. But the line, they're both unpredictable teams. They both have a lot of things that can wildly sway week to week. And I think the line is part of that as well. Obviously, at home, the Packers do rate an edge here. Oh, thanks, Jamie. Joe, I love Joe Bond. Love Joe Bond. See, there you go. So Joe is way more lucky than I am. Joe's very skilled too, of course. Joe knows his stuff. He's great at what he does. But anybody that does great for kickers, you got to have that luck element because what you're banking on is the team that week not scoring touchdowns, they're kicking field goals, and then they're making them. But yeah, Joe Bond's awesome. Yeah, so check out Joe at Fantasy Six Pack. Love Joe. Charlene, pick 4, St. Brown, London Cup, JSN, Pickens, or Mooney. Wow, I'm going to take Mooney out of this one. Matchup-wise, I don't think this is his best matchup on the outside. This is not a Chargers team doesn't give up a ton to the outside receivers. Wow, it's going to be really hard to shut any of these 5 down at this point. Pickens has a great matchup. Cincinnati is not good at the downfield pass, and I expect there to be scoring. So I like Pickens as, good floor, big upside. Cooper Kupp, I don't think New Orleans has any capabilities to have any of their receivers. Drake London, I think the big receiver, they play him in the slot like 35% of the time. So that Los Angeles zone, I'm not worried because he's going to get yards after the catch. St. Brown, I mean, it's impossible to see him. Even if it's a 3-target game, he tends to score a touchdown. I got to sit Smith and Jigba. He's been the hottest hand of most of them. But these other guys are alpha targets. And I know Pickens is in a high volume team, but the matchup's too good to sit Pickens because Pickens has a lot of 70+ yard games, but he could score twice against this team. That's the way I would go. I would say JSN and Mooney. Good problem to have. You got a great squad there. Tom, I got to go with Keenan again. If Jennings, because it's a decision you got to make on Thursday, and the whole point, if Jennings is going to play in that level of snowstorm, and we don't know if Purdy's playing, it's going to be very hard to count. And the Bills are very good at corner. We thought they weren't going to be after they lost a lot of people. They've been very solid at corner. Probably sees a lot of Rasul Douglas in this one too. I got to go with Keenan Allen. 15 targets. I think we get 15 this week. No, but they play man, and I assume he gets 5 catches, gets you 40-ish yards, and Jennings might not get there. That's a snowstorm. There may not be much scoring. All right, we got Jonathan, full PPR start to Ridley, McConkey, McLaurin, Jennings. So I just gave the reasoning on Jennings where I'm kind of worried about him this week. That leaves us with Ridley, McConkey, and McLaurin. Look, McConkey is getting volume, and they're going to with no J.K. Dobbins, they're not going to be able to run the ball on Atlanta. I don't think with any sustained success. So they're going to throw more. So McConkey is a great play here. Then we got Ridley, and they're in the same game, right? Let me just double check this. Yeah, Ridley and McLaurin are in the same game. I would be inclined to go with Ridley. Ridley has been playing well 4 weeks in a row. Like we said with McLaurin, look, it all counts, but last week's play was fluky. It's not going to happen again, right? You can't count. It's if that catch didn't happen, and it did happen, but 3 of the last 4 weeks have been under 30 yards. Whereas Ridley, let's tell you right now what Ridley's doing here. Ridley, 5 for 93, 4 for 58, 5 for 84, and 2 tutties. 5 for 73, 10 for 5 weeks he's been going, and 10 for $143. Ridley is playing at a level right now, and Washington doesn't have really have a corner that is likely to contain him. So that's where we go there. And then also start Taysom over McBride. Look, I love what Taysom did. I have like some lineups, and I love the whatever it was 30-something points he had a couple weeks ago. And McBride's been a beast. McBride has been an absolute beast. And so it's going to be very hard to sit him. And I know they want to use Hill, but if Hill doesn't get 2 touchdowns, it's going to be very hard for him to outscore McBride. McBride, listen to McBride's. I'll tell you McBride's points here as I'm looking at him. 12 for $133, 4 for 71, 3 for 35. He scored a touchdown. 9 for $124, 5 for 51, 8 for 86. Real hard to sit. It's real hard to sit McBride. Or flex him over Ken Walker. So if you've got McBride and Walker, I know Walker has McBride, but Walker catches 4 or 5 passes a lot of games too. I love Taysom Hill, not against these players. Against second-tier tight ends, sure. But if you got to swing for even if you swing for defense, because McBride could have that game. McBride could get you 25 points. So yeah, I'm going to go that way. Jennifer. Love pecan pie. Yes. Oh, Pete. Yeah, I know. I screwed this up. And I'm from Chicago, and other people are, yeah, I know. I'm a total Chicago bum. Yes, I am. So here's that. So it's pecan, right? Thanks for sharing that. Charlene, you know what? Bucky Irving. I'm going to tell you the snaps because last week was the first time that I saw Bucky out snap him. Last week, yeah, Bucky Irving 52-49. Before then, it was usually 60-35, like 60-35 in favor of White almost every week. Last week, they flipped it. And look, Bucky Irving, in my mind, has been a better back all year. And I think they're figuring that out. The touches were always equal. They were all getting about the same amount of touches. But now, last week, with the increased snaps for Irving, he had 18 touches to 13 for White. And that was another outlier because, again, it was normally even or White might get another toucher. Now, I think it's flipped. So, yeah, to me, Irving's the guy. And Tom, you're welcome. One more, it looks like, and then we'll get rolling. 4 to start. Neighbors, Cup, Harrison, Thomas Jr., Jennings, Garrett Wilson. I know Garrett Wilson had that dud in the last game, but I would go back to him. He had been playing well enough with Rodgers. I think that you play your star there. And I think you got to play Cup. I don't think New Orleans has anybody who could really deal with him. And for the third, look, Neighbors is going to get targets. He's going to have a floor. And I think we got to go with that. I think we got to go with that because Marvin Harrison Jr. has just been too hit or miss. And right now, it's very hard to – I can't keep making excuses. He has to have 2 good weeks in a row before I can trust him. I'll go with Brian Thomas Jr. You heard me talk about him a few minutes ago, that he is mostly getting it done with bad quarterback play. He had a couple lean weeks, but I tend to trust him. Jennings, because of the potential for a snowstorm, no on that. But you can come back Sunday. I'll know more about the snowstorm and whether Trevor Lawrence is playing. But in terms of your Thursday one, I would get Neighbors in the lineup, and then the rest of these would become Sunday questions. Tom, Pacheco, I expect that Chris Rodriguez will be activated to the roster. He will become the early down back. McNichols will be the changeup. That's what my expectation is because they need a grinder. McNichols isn't a grinder. Chris Rodriguez is. It's kind of like the Kamani Vidal, Hassan Haskin things, right? Hassan Haskins on the active roster because he plays special teams, but Vidal is inactive because he doesn't. But then when they're out, their other running backs are out, they elevate Vidal and he's in the rotation. And I see it the same way with McNichols. So Pacheco should see more work than McNichols, so I'll go with him. And then Bills or Charger defense. Like I said, the Bills are playing. This is a Sunday question because if the snowstorm is as expected, I'm playing the Bills. 49ers on a sloppy field, no thanks. If the forecast clears up, then we start to make a case for the Chargers. But I don't like the Chargers here. I don't think the Chargers bring the type of pressure they're gonna rock Kirk Cousins. So I think across the board I would go Bills. Sauger, Chiefs not looking good lately. Here's the thing with the Chiefs. Help's on the way. Charles Omenihu, very good passer, 7.5 sacks in limited action last year. Well, guess who's coming back from his ACL this week? Charles Omenihu. So now it's just not Chris Jones, and Omenihu's going to get better. And then what's the weakness on the team? Their left tackle, Wanya Morris. He's terrible. Oh, DJ Humphries just happened. Free agent DJ Humphries, who's off an ACL, is medically cleared and ready to play. And guess who the Chiefs signed? DJ Humphries. Not a world beater, but he's acceptable. And if they have an acceptable left tackle, so guess what? The Chiefs are back. And DeAndre Hopkins only playing 40% of the snaps. At some point, that's got to go up to 70, right? They're slow playing it. Bryce, you're welcome. Charlene. No, Sean Tucker doesn't. He plays one series usually, Charlene. 8% of the snaps, 0%, 13, 10. Yeah, those are his snaps. 2 touches, 4 touches, 0 touches, and 5 touches. So he usually plays a series a game. That's what he's in for. They're doing it to be nice. I think that's all they're going to be in. To be nice. He showed him in that one game something. He plays one series, and that'll be every game. But he is not a factor otherwise. Jamie, you enjoy it as well. Thanks. Charlene, Lions defense this week. Not as optimistic as I was. Since Thomas Moore took over the Bears offense, they get it out quickly. They get the ball out quickly. Caleb Williams is making quick throws, running quickly. Probably not going to make a lot of mistakes here. And probably going to run from the pass rush. So I think the Bears are okay here. I don't think the Bears are going to turn it over a lot. Now that said, Caleb's going to have 3 interceptions, 2 of them for touchdowns and all that. But no, I think the Bears have really figured some things out. Yeah, Charlene, you're welcome. Happy holidays to you as well. Henry, you need 2 full PPR, Hawkinson, Vele, or Waddle. So yeah, no, I know Hawkins has had 2 really good games and 2 games not quite, but you know what? They're leaning on him a bit more. So I think you got to go with Hawkinson at this point because he is a big part of the middle of the field for them. He really is their middle of the field guy, and against Arizona, I think that's going to be real useful. Vele, look, I love Vele. And the Browns corners have been getting burned, but Vele's they're getting burned on big plays. And Vele's an underneath big slot. Probably see some Martin Emerson in this one. I'm not optimistic about Vele's, and I love Vele. Love him. I'm not optimistic about this matchup. I think Sutton's going to be fine. I think Sutton's fine. I know Waddle had the one game. Jair Alexander's out. That means something. Because they still got to worry about Tyreek Hill. I'm going to go back to the well on Waddle. I would go Hawkinson and Waddle on that one. Emilio, start. They are already talking about elevating Chris Rodriguez. So at this point, I think it's very sketchy as to whether Robinson plays. And I think if you got to make the decision on Thanksgiving with Waddle playing on Thanksgiving, look, if he's a scratch and you take a 0, that's not worth it. I would play Waddle. Not a doctor, not on the field. Don't know if Robinson is able to play, if he plays and he has a setback. I think there's a lot of variables we worry about. If it's a Thursday versus Sunday decision, I think you take the Thursday player, you bank some points, and then, then whatever happens to Robinson happens. But again, if he's inactive, you're stuck. I don't want you in that position. All right, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Oh, I one more, and I'm going to get out. And happy Thanksgiving. I'll see everybody on Sunday. More start sit questions. Monty said he would play on Sunday. He did put in limited practice. I expect he will play. For fantasy, look, give him a shot. You have him, use him. If he's ready to play, it might not be the same workload, but he still could get you 50 yards and a touchdown. Same thing, Charlene. Hopefully I don't need too much on Thanksgiving either. And Emilio, you're welcome. Everybody, happy Thanksgiving. I'm back on Sunday. Enjoy the games.